I have the pleasure to call Mr. Graham Burdick on the stage. Thank you.
Good evening. Before I start, I just want to explain a couple of things. I'm not going to talk about my job. I'm going to talk about my hobby, which is skiing. But the illustrations I'm going to show you that I made are for an English audience. And sadly, English people know very little about skiing. And they certainly don't know that it originated in Scandinavia. So it was my little mission to educate them. So you may know some of this. I apologize beforehand, but hopefully you might learn one or two things you didn't know. Okay. I'll show you a series of illustrations I made for a set of small cards, 8 centimeters by 6, which used to be known as cigarette cards in England and bubblegum cards in the USA, and which are now made for collectors, just like stamps. Skiing has been around for thousands of years in Scandinavia, as cave drawings and later Norwegian sagas explained. These are the famous Birkebeiner, or birch legs, rescuing the infant King Haakon in 1206. By 1750, there were companies of ski soldiers in Scandinavia who often used one shorter ski and one long pole to maneuver. Brightly coloured ski clothes are not a modern invention, as you will know. It was started by the Lapps, but it's interesting, these sort of colours are the colours that you see on ski slopes and probably saw before any other sport. Sondre Nordheim from Telemark perfected the modern ski shape, leather bindings, and the famous Telemark turn. I'm sure you all know that. Impossible for an Englishman to do. Another Telemark boy was first introduced skis to the USA in 1851 when he delivered mail in deep snow. He also became a ski celebrity by demonstrating ski jumping principally from the roofs of houses. His name was Torstenson, by the way, but the Americans found Thompson easier. In 1890, Nansen published his book Across Greenland on Skis, and only then did the rest of Europe begin to discover this strange Scandinavian form of transport. English people think it all started in Austria and Switzerland. But this guy in Austria did do a lot for skiing. Zadowski, he was an army officer. He read Nansen's book and realized the military possibilities. He founded the first ski school, perfected metal bindings, and invented the stem Christiania turn. Now, skiing had arrived in the Alps. Sondre Nordheim set the first ski jumping record of 18 meters at Holmenkollen in 1868, where competitors often wore a collar and tie. How distances and costumes have changed. This illustration is taken from a Belgian postcard of 1908. And it's interesting that such cheap printed images helped spread the art of skiing to other parts of Europe. We're out of order here, unfortunately. Anyway, this is how you would have skied in England at the turn of the century. Trousers were not allowed. Skiing was, but a bit drafty, I think. This Englishman organized the very first slalom race in 1922 in Switzerland by placing poles down a slope and timing the races. Another sport invented by the Brits, but now hopelessly beaten by everybody else. The world's first chairlift appeared in 1936 in Sun Valley, USA, and the concept was adapted from a cable banana lift in Venezuela. Not a lot of people know that. Coca-Cola was one of the first companies to exploit the advertising potential of skiing, refreshing, exhilarating, and, being alcohol-free, clean living. The perfect product. Although the first Winter Olympics were held in 1924, slalom racing was not included until 1936 at Garmisch and was not officially recognized until 1948 in St. Moritz. Cross-country skiing, as you know, has changed very little over the years. New materials, costumes, and timing may have been added, but it remains the supreme test of physical endurance. In the first slalom race in 1922, a 10-second penalty was added for each fall. But by 1930, standards had so improved that timing over 2 runs in reverse order was already in use. Downhill skiing has been taken over, unfortunately, by technology. So the skier's greatest contribution now is to crash in front of the cameras. But the sensational nature of this event has introduced skiing to a much wider public, and certainly in England. That's what everyone watches for, the crashes. Freestyle skiing is older than you might think. A certain Axel Henriksen was performing somersaults, or kullerbyttor, as you call them, God knows why, back in 1913. And ski ballet was already being demonstrated in 1930. So the most recent chapter in the skiing saga was the arrival of the snowboard in the mid-60s, the first radical change in several thousand years. Who knows what future innovations will challenge the elements of snow and gravity. That's all, folks. I do have 2 or 3 sets of these little ski cards. If anyone wants them for their children, just ask me. They are collector's items. There are lots of cards of golfers, cricketers, footballers. I used to collect them as a boy. But there isn't a set of ski cards. That's why I made them.